I think another big issue is capitalism and how, like you said, our dollar doesn't circulate within the Black community long at all. And
it's
so
a direct tie to the Black family, because all our businesses were Black family businesses. All the biggest names in Fortune 500 businesses in general typically come from families.
Right. And even in the music that we have, the things that we're promoting are not Black businesses, are not buying land, are not being in partnership. I believe that dynamic of a man and a woman, and a man leading and a man providing, I think those things are valid. It's just what providing looks like now is now through the lens of capitalism. And so instead of you giving me something that appreciates in value, the way that we look at that transactional relationship is Birkin bag me, get my hair done, get my nails done, get me some Louboutin. The man looks to the woman like, well, then I give me sex, because that's what the music promotes. Sex, 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 Birkin bag, Birkin bag. Welcome to the Let There Be Art podcast, where we weigh in on a wide range of topics, everything from politics, relationships, to health, because everything is a reflection of art. Art reflects society, and society imitates art. So here we are, letting there be art. I'm your host, Jade Novah, and I'm co-hosting along with my incredible husband, Devin Mykel. I'm a singer, songwriter, and actress. I've been featured on The Simpsons, and you guys, I'm getting ready to star in the upcoming political comedy She the People on Netflix this year, so stay tuned. I've been streamed over 150 million times as a fully independent artist, and my husband, he is an incredible music producer, musical director, composer. He has worked with some of y'all faves, including me, shameless plug, but Lizzo, Rihanna, Stevie Wonder, to name a few. He actually just arranged the incredible Lettucey for the Lift Every Voice and Sing for the Super Bowl, y'all. So make some noise. We stand a talented Black king. But we started the LTBA podcast to encourage curiosity, to teach and inspire people in our community to build sustainable careers as independent creators from a holistic perspective that focuses on the mind, body, and the soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like all those. Mind, body, and soul.
Mind, body, and soul.
That's what made me fall in love with you, girl.
What, my mind, my body, and my soul?
Mm-hmm. All of them.
Really?
Because if you just had one, we'd be screwed.
Really? If I just had body?
Yep. You'd be done.
You
You'd be
wouldn't
out
like
of here.
that?
You'd be with Meg the Stallion somewhere.
Oh, I mean, maybe she has all three. We don't know her life.
Just the song. Body, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, just a lot of body.
Okay, that's cool. I wish I had more body though.
Okay.
I do, but you love it.
I do.
Really? Okay,
But
this is getting weird. All right, so here we are. That was actually my first time doing the intro. I'm excited about that.
It was. Congrats.
You liked it?
Mhm.
And congrats to you. We didn't. That was like a little thing. The Super Bowl. How do you
Oh
feel?
yeah, thank you. I feel great. It was definitely a bucket list moment for me to do Super Bowl. I've done NBA All-Star Game, pretty much every award show, tours, and so many different things. But yeah,
Flex.
Super Bowl has always been one that I wanted to do, especially looking up to the Whitney Houston national anthem and Beyonce national anthem, both which they work with Ricky Minor, who's my mentor. So I just felt like it was something that was eventually going to come. And shout out to my brother Adam Blackstone for the call on that one, and for including me to be a part of that special moment, especially during Black History Month, sang by another Black independent woman artist who's amazing in Lettucey. Shout out to her for just being so gracious with her talents. And
your birthday twin. Y'all share the same birthday.
Yeah. We both Aries, March 28th. So yes, send us some birthday love.
Happy birthday, Lettucey. And you got to do it in front of your family. And it was the most viewed Super Bowl, right?
So the actual weekend of the Super Bowl was bittersweet because the day before was my uncle's funeral. So just, obviously dealing with the grief of losing a loved one and, holding space for a family. And then, 24 hours later, I'm celebrating one of my biggest accomplishments. But it was dope because not all my family, but a lot of my family was there to watch that with me. Yeah. And that was a lot of their first times ever, being with me to watch something like that. So
Yeah,
that was a really dope moment for me.
Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Yeah.
I'm his father. I'm his father.
Yeah, shout out to Pops. He's definitely proud, and my mom. But yeah, I know that was important for them too, because like I said, growing up in Columbus, Georgia, you know, the civil rights history in our area, we sang that song a lot, so it's definitely something that's near and dear to our hearts.
Shout out to Adam Blackstone. Shout out to Lettucey, your birthday twin. It was really great, baby.
Thank you.
Congrats. So what are we getting into today? We've been away. This is actually like our hard launch, right? Because last year we hit you guys with some unreleased episodes and just some episodes that we were just kind of testing out to see how to navigate this whole pod world. But we decided we're going to commit to the pod life, and here we are.
Yeah, so today we're going to get into the kind of the divide between men and women, something that we've talked a lot about, and especially in music, and the kind of divisiveness and transactional relationships versus building like organic and healthy partnership, and actually valuing each other beyond our, you know, financial assets and our bodies and sex and all these other things that are just a lot more transactional and like almost like a negotiating tactic over just like really connecting with a person, being able to hold space, have empathy, and, you know, and heal together.
It's kind of interesting hearing you say all that, because then when I think about what marriage and partnership used to be, it actually was more transactional. Do you think we're like going back to the origins of partnership? Because really it was like a dowry, right? Like once a woman reached a certain age, the father would give the man land or some sort of asset in exchange for the daughter. It wasn't like this romantic concept of love that we kind of went through in more modern times.
I've always thought that, but I'm just saying, especially in modern times, like back then there was a little more focus on, you know,
family
connection,
building.
family businesses, and it just that the unit and the tribe was a lot tighter. And of course, you know, this world and capitalism is always going to put its imprint on the things that we do. The whole system is messed up if you know anything about what we feel about this world. So it's not even that versus how we're approaching it as individuals, that we're not looking at it through this lens that the media has painted for us to look at relationships or to look at the opposite sex. And we just got to do better with trying to get understanding and allowing ourselves to be vulnerable enough to be understood.
All right, so let's get into Beyond the Bait. This is a segment where we take popular headlines or just conversations that are going on in pop culture, and we go a little bit deeper. Because, you know, sometimes they be trying to like get us with the clickbait and make us have emotional responses without really getting into the meat of the conversation. So let's get into the vegan meat.
The chickpeas.
Let's get into the chickpea of the conversation.
The mushroom.
The lentils.
Lion's mane.
Okay, you win.
All right, so yeah, we're gonna start off with well, actually both of these are Omarion, but he was talking on Sherry Shepherd about, that's correct, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, he was talking on Sherry Shepherd about ethical non-monogamy.
Also, you know, the women just truly outnumber the men. You know what I mean? And this is
you're supposed to have, is this like an all-you-can-eat buffet over here?
No, let me...
Okay, go on explain. I'm not jumping on you.
Let me just say, it's only a few good men. It's only a few good men.
Right.
You know? And whether or not it's a... Whether or not it's a physical thing, you know, we end up fostering the next generation as well. So why not have our queens or the women, because I was raised by all women.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Why not have our queens aligned with that? That it takes a village. It's not going to just be one man. You know, you could get married. That man still ain't going to be just your man. He's going to be, you know, there for his daughter. He's going to be there for his mom, his grandmother. You know, so this concept isn't really foreign. It's just a little old. you know, and it's meant to be upgraded. And I love this conversation because I think when men are open and honest that they don't want to have just this one thing for the rest of their life, it gives a woman an opportunity to choose and to, you know, further understand a man, because, you know, I think that women don't really understand a man. Certain women do, but there's a larger conversation that has to be had about understanding men and how, you know, we're meant to spread our seed.
Well, I want to say this.
Okay. So let's get into it. I have so much that I want to say. I'm just really curious.
So just start saying it.
Well, I'm just curious your perspective as a man, since the allegation is that most women don't understand men. What do you feel about what he said?
Yeah, I think that of men and women that we don't understand each other as deeply as we should, and that there have to be a lot more open and honest conversations about the origins of our desires, our traumas, and everything to really come with a renewed perspective on why we do things and what decisions and choices that we're making around our relationships and our family structures. And I think that we have to heal those things before we even start to have a conversation about monogamy, or else we're just going to keep approaching non-monogamy in the same ways from an unhealed perspective.
I really appreciate you saying that, because for me, first of all, I agree 100% that women and men, we've been sort of programmed and conditioned to not understand one another. And that's really the theme of this episode is about the programming from music and pop culture, which we'll get more into later once we get into the mushroom of it. But yeah, I think that you're very right. When we're not healed and we don't do the work of having understanding of yourself, like you said, what drives your desires, the why of things, and then also having more understanding of each other, using ethical non-monogamy as this fix-all situation, like this is supposed to cure the problem with that divide.
Well, he didn't say that, though.
Well, I'm saying from your perspective of saying that in order to even get into the conversation of ethical non-monogamy, you have to heal yourself first. It can't just be this fix-all solution if your approach to it isn't coming from one of complete understanding and a healed mindset. Because when I think about a man, and you know, even we had our son read that book. I can't remember the name of it, but you had our son read this book about masculinity and how the narrative has tend to be like, oh, you know, the difference between a man and the male species are two different things. So when you think of male, apparently, according to this book, he was saying like that's that instinctual urge to please yourself, whether that's through sex or food or anything, that whole like primal instinct of the male to take what they want. That is not to be confused with what it is to be a man. Because from this author's perspective, when you're a man, that means that you have the discipline in order to not just move with your desires, you move with intention, and you move with a level of discipline that allows you to make decisions that aren't just rooted in your desire. That's root chakra.
Yeah, but more importantly, moving with vision is the part about it, is that if you don't have a goal or a plan in line that goes beyond yourself, then you don't have vision. You don't have something that you can work towards to look through your life and your decisions through that lens to say that will this serve or take away, or add value to or take away from what I'm trying to accomplish in my life, or does it help me get closer to that goal or to that vision or purpose?
Right, because from the sound of it, and again, like this is just one clip of, I don't know the deeper intention that he has with ethical non-monogamy. One of the arguments he made about it was that there are more women than men. There are not a lot of good men. And then he said that men have to spread their seed. And to your point, if you don't actually have intention on setting up these more tribal entities, you are just kind of using it as a way to justify your inability to control your sexual urges or your desire to have novelty in your sexual experiences. So you're like, cool, this is nature. I'm supposed to spread my seed. My issue with that argument is that unless you are impregnating every woman that you're having sex with, the spreading of the seed argument doesn't really make sense, because the men that I know who are in these ethical non-monogamous dynamics aren't getting these women pregnant most of the time. They're having sex with them merely for pleasure. And if we want to get into biology, women are the only beings between a man and a woman who actually has an organ specifically for pleasure that doesn't require procreation. You know, so if we're talking about the biology of things, it would make more sense for women to be the ones who spread their whatever, not even spreading their seed, but who moved more with pleasure purpose, because
But he didn't say anything about pleasure. Just
well, he said spreading of the seed, and to
he
my
did,
and
but
right,
that,
and so
that's not pleasure though.
it's not pleasure, but that's the argument for why men can move that way. But like I said, unless you're
That's one argument.
it's one argument, and it's the one he said. And if that is your
Well,
just
he didn't give it he didn't give that as an argument. I don't.
He at the end he said that men need to spread their seed. He used that as the cap of the conversation to say this is the reason why this makes sense for men. There's more women than men, he said, and men need to spread their seed. That it is more of a natural thing, because from the arguments that I've heard, and again, this may not just be specific to Omarion, but other men that I have heard who spit this same rhetoric around the biology.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
But
I just don't want to get confused with this clip. And
I'm
what
not
he actually
putting it
said.
all on Omarion, but just more so using it for a larger conversation, because ultimately this episode is about relationships and, like you said, intention and what is it that we're really trying to build. So Omarion, you're not the scapegoat for this. I know that I don't know his whole philosophy. I like Omarion from some of the things that I've seen. You know, I like his music. This is not a dig at him. This is just more a jumping off point to have a deeper conversation around some of these hot key phrases that I've heard some men that I have looked at, and some that I respect and value their opinion, use this same argument as a way to justify a one-sided, ethically non-monogamous scenario in which the woman is there to kind of carry the burden, or, you know, the responsibility of being monogamous and faithful and loyal and taking care of the kids. And then the men can say, oh, well, it's in a man's nature to do X, Y, and Z, and we spread our seed. So
Did he say that?
that's why I said this is not Omarion specific. I'm saying just these conversations that I've seen time and time again where that argument has been used, and I've never really heard anyone go deeper, like what we doing, to be like, okay, spreading of the seed only makes sense if that's what you're doing every time you are having sex with these women. Otherwise, this argument isn't valid to me, because then
It could be for more than one reason. You can want to spread your seed, and you can want to have pleasure and novelty or whatever else you said.
Well, if that's I said, so if that's the case, then we can't neglect the fact that women, between men and women, are the only of the two who have a sex organ that is specifically for pleasure, the clitoris. That's what I'm saying. So if we're talking about biology, then if we're looking at things from a pleasure-based standpoint versus procreation, women are the only biological beings that have a sex organ that is only for pleasure.
Okay, so what's the point?
The point is, if you're trying to use biology as a justification to say that men are the ones who should be more promiscuous, it's not valid if you're not getting every woman that you have sex with pregnant, to me.
Right, but I just don't know whose argument that is for us to be.
I'm saying it's plenty of people's argument. I mean, have y'all not heard men use this argument as an example of like, oh, we supposed to spread our seed, and, you know, women can only be pregnant with one baby at a time, but like, and then like getting into the comparisons of primates that we're close to and how monogamy doesn't exist in nature and all these kind of arguments. But I'm just trying to bring it back to the fact that if we're gonna use nature and biology as an argument to justify a one-sided, ethically non-monogamous relationship that only allows for men to express themselves sexually and freely, then we have to acknowledge the biology of a woman, which, and not to say that this is something that I think anyone should do. I'm just saying if you're using this as an argument, then let's go deeper and acknowledge that women have an organ that is specifically for pleasure only.
But what about what he actually said though? Like, I'm saying,
What about what he just said?
just specifically on, I guess, what is your viewpoint on what he said specifically?
Well, I think about the outnumbering of men, good men to good women is something that if we had more conversations around understanding, like you said, having more intention and what actually defines a man versus being a male species, then we would have more good men. So it's like, instead of saying, well, this is how men are, this is what we're going to do because this is in our nature, there's not enough good men. So the ones who are good get to have multiple women because it's not balanced. Why don't we start to get to a space where men are actually rising to the occasion and we're teaching each other? Well, I would say more so from a man standpoint. I would rather you speak to this because how do you feel as a man to think that there are not a lot of you compared to the amount of good women that exists?
Yeah, because I mean, two things can happen at once. You don't have to wait on the ideal scenario in order for you to do what you feel like you should do. If you feel like that's the best situation for the best setup for your situation, then I think you should do it. That's just going to be like, okay, we're not going to wait for all black people to get to a certain net worth in order for us to start building generational wealth and institutions in the black community. We got to do what we can right now. So for people who may be healed and are on the same page with that, I don't think you have to wait for all black men to catch up in order for them to move in whatever type of relationship they want to be in. Because I do believe that because of this system, there are more men who are dealing with a lot of the trauma and programming around being a man and being open and vulnerable. And I mean, we lead suicide, homicide, literally everything. Like
Black men?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Disease rates, just so many different things we are already behind, and black people in general, but especially black men with prison and violence, drugs, the music they play on the radio, hypermasculinity, or the the illusion of hypermasculinity, which is really overload of femininity and not being able to control your emotions.
Exactly.
But yeah, so I think there's a lot of things stacked against men that could be beneficial for people who are on the same page to say, hey, there aren't enough good men around. And, if that's what works for them, I don't see no problem with those people who are on the same page, doing everything open and ethically, doing whatever it is that they feel is best for their tribe.
But see, that's, again, you're saying tribe, and I guess when I think about the modern version of that, because we're not living in, and I'm only speaking from Black Americans and my experience as someone living in Atlanta,
Mm-hmm.
I don't see like this tribal sort of existence that justifies that kind of lifestyle to say like, okay, cool, I am a black man, I have these women, all these women have this different role within the community, and we're raising children, and we have a co-op and homeschool, and we're growing our food. Like that kind of existence. Are they doing that though? Because
I'm not here to say that. I'm saying if they are doing the things that.
But we talking about what you wanted to bring it back to Omarion.
Exactly, and I'm saying that.
And I don't know that I see him out there.
You don't have to see it in order for it to happen. People don't know the ins and outs of our relationship, but for it to be true that we're doing a lot of deep work. Mm-hmm. That people don't know that, but we're doing it, and we're doing it beyond just our immediate family, and we're trying to build that, at least economically, mm-hmm. where we're taking a more group economic approach to how we're trying to encourage and educate our family to take part in, especially before we start getting in our older years. And yeah, man, it's a lot that we don't take into account of how necessary it is for us to come together collectively. And if we keep having a lot of these petty differences about these transactional type relationships, then we'll never be able to grow. So again, I think that people have to heal individually first. And if and only if and when they heal those things and they're able to be on the same page with someone and they want to deal with other people sexually, then that is on them. And I think it can be done in a healthy way if you are actually healed and openly working through your issues.
Okay, two things there. The first thing, you say that the reality of the situation is that there are, because of the conditioning, that there are more healed black women than there are black men.
I'm not saying I'm not saying that there are more. I think there are less options for men who have vision and purpose in the world than there are women who are capable to follow and have a growth mindset, or as their focus, and that they're constantly growing. I think there's more women who are moving towards their higher self or their charged life than there are men, but it's because of this system. We cannot discount the system that we're in, and that doesn't justify it or say that we don't get ourselves out of this, but we still have to understand the origins, which is why neither one of men or women are have many favorable things to say about each other, in the first place.
Well, right. And so to your point of that, and I'm just paraphrasing when you say that there are more black women who you believe to be healed, or as far as them not being able to have options of finding a black man to lead them, to justify, okay, if there is a black man who does have his mind right and his money right and a vision, that this model is good, while we simultaneously try to heal the rest of the black men so that we don't have to.
So we don't have a bunch of the new generation of boys who don't have a good father around and can actually be raised and have the masculine energy at least around to help them on their journey, because that's the problem. It's like it's not toxic masculinity. It is the lack of masculinity that is the problem, and at least in the black community,
right? Which means that
you're just in with men in general, but I'm speaking for my people,
right? But the reason I'm saying that is to say, so I'm just making sure I'm clear on what you're saying about the women being more healed, there not being enough black men who can be in a leadership position to accommodate the amount of black women that there are who are already on that journey. And that because that's where we are now, if ethical non-monogamy is the solution that you want to have, if you find the right situation, then it can work, while we simultaneously try to get black men to a space of actually tapping into their masculine energy so that they are equipped to lead. And my thing with that is, who bears the burden of that learning curve but the black women? So it's like you're saying, because just as much conditioning and
the burden of what?
The burden of having to transmute all that comes along with honoring that. Like, yes, black women are on our spiritual journeys, and I'm not arguing that fact that
I'm not saying that it should be.
That ultimately would be what would happen. It has to be
something that they're choosing and that they want to do. I'm not telling them, telling any woman to be a part of a situation where they don't want to do it. So if you feel like this just too much for you to do or to transmute, then don't do it.
Yeah, I guess.
And be real and open and honest about what that is, and everybody have a conversation about what it is that they're looking for, or that they're open to.
I guess my only other thing with that is when you look at some more modern examples of that, because like I was saying earlier, it's not like we live in a tribal sort of space to justify that. We would look at like the Nick Cannons of our generation. I love you, Nick Cannon. This isn't a dig. I'm just stating the facts of the situation, that he kind of has adopted more of a lifestyle of the spreading of the seeds across multiple households. But then the issue comes when we look at the black family and the issue that comes from not having a man and a woman in a household. So yes, we're spreading our seed and we're doing all that. And yes, maybe you have enough money to honor each household and give these children an abundance of love, but none of them are getting a 2-parent household, maybe one. I don't know the situation. So then that is the only version of it that I've seen. It's not like I've seen all these women living on a you know what I mean? Like in some kind of communal living situation where one is handling the gardening and one is handling educating the children and one is handling the food. Like that would then make sense to me with this whole mindset of the spreading of the seed and the man being in leadership. But where is the example of that for this to even be something to aspire to justify ethical non-monogamy in a one-sided space that only benefits the man?
Yeah, I think you don't have to have examples of everything in order for them to exist. Like that's the whole point of legacy media, is to show you one way. So anything outside of it, you think that it's weird or abnormal or something that you should call out or something that you should laugh at if they happen to die. You know what I mean? That's the whole, to bring it. Oh, well,
we're not talking about that one. But maybe another time you'll know what we're talking about.
But yeah, I think that's the whole point. And there are examples out there. I don't know exactly who they are, but there's history books that exist beyond the history that we're taught in America. And there's dozens and dozens of other countries that have histories that may involve a more tribal community. So I can't speak for that, but I'm sure as we continue to heal ourselves, we'll see more examples of what that looks like to people. But I do agree that in order for people to have a vision of what it is that they can do or aspire to, you have to see it done in a healthy way and have mentorship in order to help that work. So definitely a great point. But at the end of the day, somebody got to start it.
Somebody has to start what? This way of doing things, or just creating a blueprint to do it in an actual healthy way?
Yes, whatever is being, whether it's healthy or everybody's, that's going to be subjected to everybody, but there has to be
healthy and consenting in the way like what I was saying before, because my thing at first I was confused of like, okay, so women are the ones who are going to have to like deal with this mindset of some of these black men who feel like because they know that they have the advantage of being one of a million, in their minds, they can use that to say, okay, well, y'all ain't got no other options anyway, so this is kind of what it is. And that's what I meant earlier when I said, okay, so now we're the ones, because as much programming as black men have received, so have black women as far as our version of what happily ever after looks like. And so
that's up for everybody to deal with their own program, and healing is an individual journey. So we can't.
Yeah, but you gave more empathy towards black men and the programming that they deal with to justify this lifestyle.
And they gotta heal too, or else they can't be in no ethically non-monogamous relationship. I didn't say that one side had to heal, but I understand why there are less men who are ready to carry on the mission of leading a family into financial stability and self-governing themselves.
Right. So then to that point, do you think, based on what Omarion said, is as a man, this men spread their seed, or men, this is a characteristic of being a man. Do you agree with the examples that we have seen? Because like you said, we haven't seen anyone who's doing it from more of a tribal standpoint that we can pinpoint or know, at least in the public space, right? Like we just know the Neo version of it or the Nick Cannon version of it, or now Omarion's conversation around it. Do you think that is a characteristic of masculinity? This new age version of it that's more rooted in sex and not so much community? Because from some of the clips that I've heard from other people that I've named, or just this conversation in general, it's like, well, it's in a man's nature to do X, Y, and Z. Do you think that is a masculine trait to just go with your baser instincts, or do you think that that's feminine? Because that's what you were kind of speaking to. That
I was saying feminine in terms of not being able to control your emotions
or control your desires that make you lead with root chakra energy of this is what I want and this makes me feel good and I'm gonna eat this food because it's so delicious and not nourishing my body, or I'm gonna have sex with this woman because she's so pretty and not to build a legacy.
Yeah, I think that's flowing, water is the element for femininity, and so flowing and moving with whatever container you're in is definitely more of a feminine trait. But I do think it is, at least in the versions that I've seen, it is more in a man's nature to have multiple sexual partners, but I don't think that is a reason for you to choose non-monogamy, especially again dealing with us being in a very programmed
Right.
world.
So then do you think it's in the nature, or do you think it's the patriarchy
I don't know.
that has made it so
that's
that
why
women...
I said the version that I know based on this world, and that's why I said I think you will approach it completely different once you're healed, and I think that's when those conversations should happen.
So that's really my question, though.
In terms of the...
That's really my question, though. Like, not what society's saying or what has shown up now, but just as someone who is a version of a healed man, because you are one of the few people, and I'm grateful for you to be someone who holds himself accountable, who holds space for me, who's able to empathize with me, who's able to have leadership and vision and build community for our families and our extended families and be an example to our son. So as someone who is actually operating in their masculine energy, who I can say is as a man, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that as the man that you are, is that what men do?
I think men do whatever complements the vision. I don't think men should be moved by desire. Like your desire should not be the thing that moves the needle, and we've been taught that from like a baby, that it should, like that when we're hungry we should cry, that all this processed food, overeating, emotional eating, that is our first
porn.
Yes, that is our but foods more specifically is our first test of how we can deal with our desires. And can we say, like, I know this doesn't put me closer to my goals, so can I have the discipline enough to say I'm just not going to eat this, even if it's right there in my face? Most of us don't have the ability to do it, or it takes us a long time in order to grow the muscle of willpower. So yeah, I think being able to control your desires is what a man really is, and to be able to say when and how you're going to deal with those those desires, because I think when you're balanced, you're not going to view sex the same anymore. When you're balanced, you're not going to view food the same no more. Because those instincts are literally in your lower chakras.
Exactly.
It's in your root chakra to eat. When you think you're gonna die, you want to have sex just so you can spread your seed.
Exactly.
And when you hungry, that's a basic need that we've gotten confused with tasting the best thing and having all the best flavors and sweets and salty
versus actually seeking nourishment.
Exactly. So which is the same thing is, am I going to have sex with this woman, or am I going to connect with her in order to know her deeply enough? So when we do have sex, it now creates something more beautiful than bringing another child into this world that doesn't get, the full scope of what they need, to raise them into a complete human being.
Exactly. I think we agree then. Yeah, that's really the point I was trying to make.
But all I was saying earlier, just to wrap this up, is that I think that if you are on a heal journey and you think that is a part of a relationship that you're in, and y'all are truly on the same page, and y'all
have
talk
the
about
same vision,
and y'all heal those things first, and actually can go multiple weeks or months without eating certain foods, and just showing that you have the discipline that when something walks by, it's not going to take your attention off of the main goal. And that's something that I resonated with, something that Billy Carson said, that if he's like a big test for him in deciding whether he works with someone is if they're out to eat, and like he'll like take them out to like the beach or somewhere, go to a restaurant on the beach, and if they can't keep their focus on the meeting, they keep looking at women, then he knows that he can't work with them. And I totally agree.
Because how you do something is how you do everything.
Yep.
And I think that's really the biggest takeaway from all of this is discipline, and that to me is the definite is one of the defining characteristics of a man.
Yep.
Is discipline.
100%.
Just do what works for you, but do it in a respectful, ethical, and truly intentional way that doesn't hurt either the women in question or the potential children in that scenario.
Yeah.
Have a plan. Have a plan with your peen. All right, cool. I mean, we don't even have to go to the other Omarion thing. I think we
What was the other
can
one?
bump that. See that? We're gonna bump that part of it. No, but let's just get into the conversation. I think we're already kind of there. You touched on it earlier, just about the programming that men and women receive around everything, really, but relationships. You know, one of the things that Omarion, just to go back to the clickbait conversation, was that women and men don't understand each other.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that? Do you think, and we kind of touched
I
on it
touched
a
on it a
little
bit, but I
but
definitely.
let's just expand on it, because the
It's true.
topic of this podcast today is about the divide, the intentional divide between black men and black women,
Yep.
and the impact that music, I mean, just all pop culture has played. And honestly, before you answer that question, let's kind of talk about some of the things that pop culture has done, some of the things that you can recognize as a man, and I can give you some of the things that I've experienced as a woman, and then we can just kind of
Okay.
go into the misconceptions
Cool.
or opinions. Do you want me to start?
Yeah.
Well, I would say for me, and we've touched on this before, but just sort of the Disney ideal of what it is to be in partnership is that, you know, you have this man that comes and then you get your happily ever after as a result. You know, there's not much emphasis on what happens afterwards to keep a relationship. You know, there's this glorified idea of, oh, a wedding and a wedding dress and all of these things that people kind of strive to more of the idea of partnership.
The honeymoon phase.
Exactly. But then over 50% of marriages end in divorce, and I think a huge cause of that is that misconception of what true partnership is actually supposed to look like. The sacrifices, the give, the take, the not so glamorous things that we never really see after the happily ever after comes on our screens after the Disney movie is over.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one of the things that I had to kind of relearn and unlearn in being in our relationship, you know, just what partnership is actually supposed to look like. I would say that's one of my big ones. If I have anything else, I'll chime back in. But what about you?
You know, music, TV, podcasts, just always saying that, you know, man's a dog is a common saying, and, you know, that women are emotional or bitchy or, you know.
What song is that?
I'm saying just it's the narrative. We're just talking about narratives.
Mm-hmm.
And that there's transactional relationships that, you know, you can't be in a relationship unless a man got a certain amount of money, and and that, you know, to be with a woman is she has to look a certain way, and it's just only about sex, and it's just, you know, falsely given the picture that all men and women are like that. I think that, you know, whatever the dominant narrative is in pop culture, we can't help but see the world that way, which is why imaging is so important, and having our own media outlets and stories and movies that are written and directed by healed black people is so important. So, yeah, we get a more nuanced approach to the real dynamics that are going on in real life.
You know, and another thing that I noticed in outside of music, I would say just in television programming too, is
Yeah, I said TV.
But to just expand more on the TV, I'm sorry. But some of the shows that I grew up watching, they painted marriage in this way of like, and you've said before, like that whole happy wife, happy life thing where like you look at The Simpsons or even the Flintstones, and like it's like
The man always soft.
the man had to like hide his vices. You know, they would go to the bar, oh, my old ball and chain doesn't know I'm here kind of thing, or married with children. It was like this thing of there wasn't really honesty between what the man wanted. He had to sort of compromise his happiness or his fullness because
Through escapism.
Through escapism, and that the woman was painted as a nag. You know, the woman was always together. Wilma was snatched for the gods, and Vivian Banks and George Lopez show. All the women were always fit and together and whatever, and then the men would have let themselves go, and they're always like, I gotta eat these donuts, or I gotta do this. Like, they struggled with their bodies and being disciplined men, or being men of leadership, to not be like, well, I'm gonna go sneak off and go to the whatever the little bar is on Simpsons with his homeboys while, you know, Marge doesn't know where I am. But from the cartoons to the TV shows to the movie, that image always sort of scared me about relationship, to think that in order for a man to exist in his authenticity, he had to lie to his wife, and that somehow women had to keep their discipline, their shit together, because the man would ultimately be doing whatever it is he wanted to do without your knowledge. And if when you say something about it or have a pressure for him to kind of join you in your discipline, like you said, there are probably more women for that very reason who are more healed, is because that's the narrative that we were painted, that we had to be, that we had to have it together, and that men were able to just move with their baser instincts of, I'm gonna drink and I'm gonna let myself go and I'm gonna be, you know, what was it? Bye bye bite when Phil was trying to lose weight on Fresh Prince or whatever. Yeah, like that was always the thing, was that the men were the least disciplined, dishonest, and that women were the disciplined, snatched, nagging entities in a relationship. So how did that affect you, would you say?
I don't know how to, I don't know. I didn't really pay too much attention to that kind of thing, but I know is definitely there. And I can see obviously the things that I think pop culture in general has done to men and women in our perception of each other, but I can't really speak on like that in particular. But I know that you know, dishonesty was something to be like laughed at, and to have multiple women was something to be laughed at, and we've talked about that before.
What do you mean
with,
was
like,
something to be laughed at?
Like Fresh Prince, like it was just like, oh, he's so silly and goofy, and that he's like talking to all these women and having all these pickup lines, or Martin, or Family Matters with
Dwayne Wayne. Oh, that's a different world, child.
Yeah, Family Matters with Eddie, yeah, trying to get with whoever, I can't remember who she was. But yeah, it was a lot of that, and a lot of those
even
TV
Roger
shows.
on Sister, not taking no for an answer, just always leading with, I gotta, ooh, baby, ooh. And like you said, it was always this funny kind of thing that they spent a man's lack of self-control or restraint as something funny and lighthearted.
Yeah, I think this is an age-old divide of men and women, you know, even going back to the Willie Lynch letter or speech or whatever, you know, the real source of that information is, whether it's true that it came from that particular guy or not. The fact is that there's
It's
a parallel, and that, you know, clearly people notice how Black people have been divided in our home, you know, by putting men and women against each other, even in slavery, by having, you know, the white man or the, you know, the plantation owner be involved in the raising of our kids, overseeing that, you know, over policing the Black man, so he seems like he's not attentive to his family, and that, you know, he's not there to take care of the children. So there's the resentment from the woman, and then you going even into when we were free and getting into government assistance, and saying that, you know, for WIC programs or certain things, you can't be married in order to get assistance from the government for different things.
Well, so you get more money if you're a single family household.
Yeah, so it's there all these things to further incentivize colorism in slavery times is obviously still existing today. I mean, everything from being on the east side of town to like literally just kind of brainwashing us to enslave ourselves is what I'm trying to get at with kind of the inception of like this Willie Lynch narrative of how you control a slave or to get slaves to get the most production out of them. And that's for them to enslave themselves and focus more on the divide between themselves than freeing themselves. So I think that's where we are, and they've just figured out a way to make us continually do that over and over to each other. It's kind of that crabs in the barrel mentality of, because I'm oppressed, I don't want to see anyone who's oppressed as much as me, being able to move up in the world, or even jealousy that someone else is in a relationship. It runs really deep.
Wait, what do you mean? Jealousy within a relationship, or someone being jealous?
Someone being jealous of other people, or can't, not being able to celebrate someone else's success or happiness in a relationship because of their own hurt from their past relationships. Just to go back to touch on the Willie Lynch papers or speech or whatever it was, basically this concept of how to control slaves and break apart the black family was to beat their slaves and to basically emasculate the men in front of the women. So whether that's putting us in jail, putting us in detention, and taking away our ability to learn. So as we keep creating new children, we don't have the leadership that we need to because of the generations of
single parent,
focusing on the single mother, and basically how that would be good for the economy of building young men and women in reverse roles to teach women how to be independent, so they reject the leadership from a man, and to keep men scared and emasculated so they don't have enough vision and willpower because they're so focused on their desires that they can't lead.
That's very full circle, because that's pretty much,
that is literally the very fabric that we live our lives.
So it's
in the black community.
So it's no surprise then that this is where we are. These, regardless of if these, because where do these papers, these Willie Lynch papers, date?
1700s.
So this is truly from the 1700s.
They say that is not from a certain Willie Lynch, the guy, I guess, who lynching was named after.
It's not about who the guy is. My question is, this write-up, what year is it? Does anyone know?
They say it's from somewhere in this, I don't know when in the 1700s, but there's controversy of course, the funded historians or whatever have said that it's not an accurate account of this particular person.
Well, right, and the person is irrelevant, like, to me.
But it's not to some people if they want to say that it's not happened. The point is that you see these patterns,
right? And that's the point I'm making.
You've seen these patterns our entire existence in America,
right? And that's
from
my
them
point.
Not letting us read, to taking the men out of the home, to having the moms raise the kids, and also. The bigger part of that is because you have no man to look to for leadership, you look towards the system to save you, whether that's food stamps, whether that's I got to hear it on the news for it to be true, whether that's I only trust in white science, so I don't do the healthier things for my body. Like that goes in so many directions that
and just everything being emotionally motivated, because women, I think I don't know who wrote these papers. That's irrelevant. The fact is they existed before where we are now, and what's actually happening in our society now.
Somebody saw a pattern enough to write it down.
Exactly. So regardless of what you want to believe of the origins of it, we can at least date it beyond the modern world that we live in now, that is clearly perpetuating this exact same concept of women being taught to be so independent that they don't want a man to lead, and they teach their daughters to do so, and the music reflects that. And then the men have been emasculated from this sort of like revolution of celebrating black women in a way that sort of emasculates their black male counterparts by saying things like, black women are the most educated group of in our society, right? We're the most educated. And then I was looking at something, I don't know who it was, but they were kind of speaking to this. Maybe it doesn't matter who it was. We were looking at something, and they were saying like that also means that there comes with a debt as well that we're not discussing, or, you know,
For college, you mean?
Yes,
Yeah.
from college, or just not giving the full scope of it, so that you take that information and you allow it to empower you in a way that says, well, what do I need a man for anyway? Because I'm more educated than you, I make more money than you. Those sorts of things, like, though they may be true, we're sort of being played by them creating a narrative that reiterates this concept of trying to empower the Black woman so much that they don't feel like they can or need to be led by a Black man, which would ultimately break the cycle. Because but it also is, though, that there aren't enough Black men to fill that role because of the fact that they've been primarily raised by their women, who don't give them the full nature of what they need to grow into their manhood.
Or if they were raised by a man, they have dealt with the system in so many different ways that it's still going to have its effects on the way that they're raised, because, you know, the men was turning to drugs and alcohol because of the oppression, because of the, you know, putting drugs in the community, over policing. I mean, so many different things. So, you know, at the end of the day, we have to recognize these origins, and we have to figure out solutions that do not involve our government, that, you know, so we can start to clean this stuff up ourselves. I think is the first step to all of this, is taking responsibility and focusing on what we can control.
And not allowing the media to paint narratives that do the damage, that continue to create that sort of divide on both sides. Because at the end of the day, like, the things that exist in pop culture, it's not like, yes, Black people, we are culture creators, we are creative, we are influential, we are powerful, we are all of these things. And again, even to Black women, I'm a college grad as well. I'm an educated Black woman in that sense of, you know, the standards of America and what that even means. No disrespect, because again, I follow that trajectory as well. But the point I'm trying to make is that a lot of these things are reiterated in the music. And like you said earlier, we don't even have to look to anything outside of ourselves to deal with this programming. We're doing it ourselves. But at the same time, we're not solely responsible for this, because the music that comes out, like the City Girls and, you know, I Don't Need a Dude for This is what is being selected by the powers that be, by the label owners. They're selecting these artists to be mainstream. You don't just, there's a huge misconception about how celebrity and all of this stuff works. Even in our political system, we think that we have some sort of say in the fact that, oh, we made Glorilla be popular, we made this artist be popular, like we're the ones who did this because we stream their music. No, everything is psychological, everything is intentional. And I'm not using these women or artists as an example to say that they're bad people. All I'm saying is understand that when there is huge visibility and the narrative is very similar among all of the artists who are at the top, or all of these mini shows that we named, there's direct ties to the elite and the media and our government, because they're the ones who control what we see, what we consume, who is at the top of the charts. It's never been about talent alone and just be like, oh, this is a really gifted person, I think that we should put all our money behind them. No, it's a business. They want to make money, and they're making money off of our oppression, our confusion, and our inability to come together because of these seeds that have been planted in our systems that we're not even aware of what's happening. So No, go ahead.
And it keeps a stranglehold on their monopoly of the world. You know, that we can't own anything if we're not dealing with how to deal with the people we're supposed to be having kids with. We can't even deal with the opposite sex. You can't build family business. The dollar can't stay in your community for more than a day. It's gonna leave right away. So yeah, this has always been about oppression.
And about capitalism.
Yeah, in my opinion, you know, it's just another way to keep us from owning and to keep us from building, you know, our own communities and institutions.
Well, that's a really good segue into, I guess, what does because we can acknowledge the fact that all of these things exist. We know what the music is saying. We know what the movies have told us about relationships, and I can agree with Omarion at least on the fact that I don't think that men and women do understand each other. So what do we do? What is the actual goal? And how do we create a new blueprint that doesn't rely on these powerful entities to determine what we need to be doing, how we need to be doing it, what our worth is, and what actually constitutes a healthy relationship?
That was a long question. I'm not sure how to answer that, but I think a big part of it is, you know, us having the necessary conversations to start to heal. That's first and foremost, because you can't build infrastructure on top of you know, a foundation where your relationships are estranged, or, you know, there's leftover resentment because it's going to come out in some kind of way. You know, at the end of the day, I feel that we're all mirrors to each other, and what you have inside of you will be revealed to you no matter who you deal with. So yeah, I think that is starting to connect with like-minded people, to build structures and systems that allow us to heal, and then allow us to you know, heal personally, and then to heal interpersonally with our family, close friends, and then to build community. Whether that's physical or through businesses, institutions, schools, whatever it is that we can do so we can be self-sufficient. And that's the answer. That's a big reason why we bought land. You know, we bought 5 acres of land
Whoop, 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 whoop.
at the top of 2025. And, you know, all of this stuff that we're talking about is the reason why. It's just because we understand that, you know, 2 generations ago, we had so many assets that have now left our families, you know, through capitalism, through torn apart relationships, through literally it all stems from the man-woman dynamic that you know, unfortunately a parent dies, and because of the unhealed home you were in, you can't get past your sibling rivalries and, you know, disputes and hurt and resentment, so you sell the house and you give up on it, and that's passive income that could be going on for generations. So it's a cycle, and again, you can't just look at one area of anything. It is holistic. Yeah, they attack us from all different angles, and and just the disagreement on sex or the disagreement on food leads to you not being able to buy land, you not being able to hold an asset, you not having the capacity to start a trust and build an estate plan for your family, proper life insurance policies. I mean, it goes on, and that's why we're here to educate people on the different ways and avenues that we can take to be self-sustaining and to have a vision for our people. Yeah.
Do you think that people don't, and all that is beautiful, make some noise?
Yeah,
for
because
my
at the
man
end of the day,
right
it's about solutions, and we're here to help provide a solution for our people.
I guess my other question is, do you think that people are aware that we're not in a healthy dynamic with Black men and women? Because if this is what continues to be, because there's almost like an empowerment, right, of women saying, oh, I'm independent, this independent movement that has kind of shifted.
Or like there's a relief in being single.
Yes. Yes, because we saw something the other day. There was a thread, I don't know what platform it was, of just women saying that they prefer to be single because they don't have to be in partnership. They don't have to compromise. They can just live life how they want to. They can travel. They can do X, Y, Z. Like, we've sort of glorified this idea of either singleness or not having children to build legacy. Like, what are your thoughts on that then, if this is a glorified thing, if people can even get to a quote unquote solution if they don't think that what they're doing is wrong and they look at it more as a progressive mindset?
Well, yeah, I think, you know, they kind of took away that ability to fight again. To go back to food, it all starts there. Your ability to go through something hard or tough, or to deny your pleasures, or to be in your comfort zone. That is the area that they've had us living in, is kind of dopamine You know, if it's something that bothers me, I'd rather not talk about it. If it's something that challenges me, I'm gonna push it away. And yeah, we're as a whole, we're very lazy people, and we don't have willpower or vision or strategy behind anything that not anything, but a lot of things that we do. So I can't remember if I answered your question, but
well, no, you did.
Okay.
I was asking how if this is the mindset that we've adapted and we look at it, and some people look at it as a progressive mindset and not actually the downfall of the family. How do we get people to even feel like they need to have a conversation or they need to change? Because really, I guess it's about showing an alternative and showing a healthy. That seems like to be the thread, the theme of this, the through line of this episode is having an example and a blueprint for how something can successfully be done. Whether you're choosing to be ethically non-monogamous like Omarion, or you're choosing to be in partnership with one person and build family legacy or whatever that looks like, the problem is there is no blueprint.
Lack of education.
There's a lack of education for an alternative. And so if all we're seeing and hearing is the music that divides us and the television shows that divide us, then we're not going to really know that there's anything more to strive to be. We need a blueprint. Regardless of what it is that you're trying to do for your family dynamic, it's important to have a healthy blueprint. And unfortunately, because of all this programming, we don't really have much of it. Everything is just confused, and we're just trying to educate ourselves, the far and the few in between who are actually recognizing this problem. But I think another big issue is capitalism and how, like you said, our dollar doesn't circulate within the Black community long at all. And
it's
so
a direct tie to the Black family, because all our businesses were Black family businesses. All the biggest names in Fortune 500 businesses in general typically come from families.
Right. And even in the music that we have, the things that we're promoting are not Black businesses, are not buying land, are not being in partnership and your man leading and a woman doing X, Y, Z. No, it's like all of the
It's Birkin bags and Gucci.
It's all of these
car.
white European standards of what success is supposed to look like. And it's like, this is what I want you to give me. So now, even I believe that dynamic of a man and a woman, and a man leading and a man providing, I think those things are valid. It's just what providing looks like now is now through the lens of capitalism. And so instead of you giving me something that appreciates in value, like to show your appreciation for your queen,
getting in the garden and cultivating some food.
Your food, the way that we look at that transactional relationship is Birkin bag me, get my hair done, get my nails done, get me some Louboutins, and then the man looks at the woman's value as
Forgot about vacation.
And vacation, I mean, that's actually pretty valid. But and then the man looks to the woman like, well, then I give me sex, because that's what the music promotes. Sex, Birkin bag. So I think the idea of a transactional relationship isn't unhealthy. It's just the way that we look at what that transaction actually is. It's not like, hey, instead of buying me a Birkin bag.
And it shouldn't be solely transactional.
Exactly. Yeah. But in those instances where we are looking at it in a more, even if we were looking at it like a transactional thing, finding more value in gifts and transactions that actually help grow the family. So instead of buying your queen a Birkin bag, use that $25,000 and y'all should get land together and get a plan together, or do both, whatever serves you. But that's the only thing that we hear. I very rarely buy me some land and buy some land, garden me, like that. I don't hear anything like that. So it's just, how do we get to a space of even recognizing that this is a problem? Mm-hmm. And what do you think is the proper blueprint for how we can create another idea of what partnership looks like?
I love the land song. That was great.
Buy me some land. Maybe we should make a song like that.
Hey man, they gotta see it and hear it.
Garden me.
But the blueprint is what we're doing. We're just living authentically with what we think is that gives our family the most value.
So in the spirit of foundation and self-love, make sure y'all click the link in our description box. For our mailing list, join our mailing list. We're getting ready to, actually at this point, we should already be having our newsletters coming out. So make sure you join our mailing list so you can get all of those juicy conversations and pieces and tidbits and nuggets and thoughts and all of that.
And we have a free ebook that we're launching that is going to be very valuable in the healing process. So definitely tap in.
Right. And I actually have, not to keep going back and forth, but I have a self-love workbook that's out right now. You can get it, download it for free. We should put that in there too, because like you said, the foundation of all of this is inner healing. It's a
individually. You got to heal individually first. You got to take that solitude time, that what I call darkness, silence, and I can't remember what the other one is right now, but basically going into your solitude, like a seed, and where the seed is planted underground, is damp, is dark, is cold, and it's not getting the direct nutrients. It's not presenting to the world yet because it's digging in its roots in the ground, and that's the first thing that we have to do is give ourselves a solid individual foundation, or be rooted into something, so we can present ourselves to the world and then attract what we're supposed to attract, because that's what flowers do.
Listen, that's so valid, because I can honestly say that before I did the healing, the people that I was attracting into my life were just reflecting who I was at that time.
Yep.
And I want to say something right now. If ever you meet somebody who says, oh, I used to date Jade Novah, if it wasn't this man right here, it's not the flex that you think it is, because I wouldn't shit. I wasn't. So you were dating a version of me that I wouldn't be friends with. So you know what I'm saying?
I do.
I'm not the same guy. Not Kalia clutching her pearls. It's true. Like, it's not.
She was terrible.
It's not the flex you think. I didn't love myself at all. So, cup kunka. Can we get into, I really want to get into dream nightmare, because I think it's important that in building this blueprint, and for pretty much just judging everybody right now, we need to kind of talk about the things that we went through to get to this point. This ain't all about pointing fingers. These are lived experiences. We used to be and are still on our healing journey. So we don't have it all figured out, but I believe that we've done enough of the work to be able to provide expertise on this.
Yes,
so Dream and Nightmare segment. So Dream and Nightmare is where you basically say an ideal situation that happened that you've experienced. Normally when we have a guest on here, it's surrounding their industry. But since today we're talking about partnership, relationship, all of these things, let's do a dream and nightmare around that, just in your experiences of building this partnership. I definitely already.
All right, go ahead. Yeah, I
May
don't
you
have
pick on
anything
me?
yet.
Will you pick on me?
Yeah.
Choose me.
You have been chosen. You're the only one here.
Thank you. So I would say, and not even necessarily a nightmare, but something that I had to overcome, and it really speaks to the whole theme of this today, is the cycle you were speaking of with women kind of raising their children, specifically women, to be independent. I think for me, I didn't experience the masculine dynamic to even understand what masculinity looks like. And kind of to the point of some of the women that we were talking about in the thread that we saw the other day around, it's more peaceful to be single. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't have to compromise anything. I can do what I want to do and eat what I want to eat and go where I want to go. I think a lot of it is because we never had healthy examples of what masculine energy actually looks like, because all those negative things that you think are not actually the experience of it when you're in a healed relationship where both parties understand their roles and how we're able to come together to actually be more impactful together and more powerful together. Yeah. So, you know, that's something that I had to overcome because, I guess the programming had taught me that I need to be independent. I don't need anyone. I don't want to be told what to do or this, that, and the other. So learning how to be soft enough to receive the masculine energy, but also be able to recognize what masculine energy is supposed to actually be and how when both dynamics are healthy, it should and can be a very beautiful exchange of empathy and balance, and it should feel lighter. The nightmare, for all intents and purposes, was me having to learn how to relinquish control and operate in my feminine in a way that actually allowed more balance and ease, instead of resisting and looking at compromise as a sacrifice and not something that actually was to the benefit of the collective. You know, we've kind of been conditioned to look at things more so from the independent mindset or the individual mindset, instead of understanding that we all have our roles to play in society as a community, but also in a partnership dynamic, learning the roles and communicating those roles so there's clarity, and that neither person feels like compromise is settling or a struggle or something that you have to give up your freedom in order to coexist in a healthy dynamic. So for the dream, I say being in partnership and doing all the work that we have done to get to this point is seeing how much more powerful and easy things can be while you're in a healthy dynamic of being able to manifest things together and seeing things come into fruition more quickly, because there are two minds, and in our instance of partnership, coming together, fixating on the same goals. So like the goals that I wanted for myself as an individual have been amplified in having a partner who also shares that same vision, but is able to play the role that you play, which is leadership. And okay, I'm like you said, women are in flow, we're water, and we're creative, and we have an idea, and we birth an idea, but it's the man's job to help carry it out with vision and execution and organization and
to plant the seed.
And to plant the seed
for you to take and create a baby out of it.
Yep, to create whatever that baby looks like. And for us, it's been 3 albums and, like I said, purchasing the land and obviously our beautiful son. And, but beyond the literal sense of planting seeds, we've planted so many amazing things that had so much more ease by having you. And it has been a dream as I've grown and learned how to let go of all the programming that we were talking about. Like, we're not exempt from this. These are the same conditioning that we're talking about exists in our community, are the things that we've experienced that we had to look at and really understand who's in control, who's creating these narratives, what benefit would it be for them to do X, Y, and Z, and really, like you said, get out of the matrix, get out of looking towards the government and these white men to tell me what I'm supposed to do or to tell me where my next check is coming from, and to really like undo the legacy of trauma that we've experienced and get out of that slave victim mentality and be able to pick ourselves up and know better and do better and create our own systems. And we've definitely been able to do that and been able to do it more quickly because we have each other.
Yep. Nation building is definitely the move. That's the only way that Black people will ever get what we're due, is if we do it for ourselves. So yeah, I'm all for that.
What's something that you had to overcome or sort of work through for this partnership to be more successful?
Just I would say the opinions of others, of just the, not even specifically about this relationship, but just in general about mixing business and pleasure, and that was somehow something that was so bad, or that you should stay away from working with someone that you're romantically involved in. And I couldn't disagree more. Actually experiencing it for myself, because that was definitely something that popped up in my mind, or that I had even, I don't know if I said it, but it definitely was a thought running through my mind that I wouldn't deal with someone who was in my industry. At what point I didn't really have a reason why outside of that narrative. So again, it's just programming that doesn't serve us unless we have our own experience, to get new information and see what's best for us. So I would say that's the nightmare. Dream would be, I guess, the resolve of that, and actually being able to build such a solid foundation in our personal relationship and in our business relationship, and just balancing all that we've been able to balance with touring together and producing 3 albums, and web series, and writing movies and TV shows that we're working on, building out this platform, podcast, and it's a lot to to manage, even parenting our son. And yeah, just I this is not to toot my own horn at all, but we have one of the most balanced relationships I've ever seen, especially for us to be working so closely together.
All right.
Yeah.
I love it. So let's get into the next segment, Sign Drop Collab. This is where we have 3 different options and we decide whether we want to sign them, which is the most committed
Number
connection. That's number 1. Yes, collab is number 2 and drop is number 3. So what we got, Kalia?
Your options are Teach Me How to Love by Music Soul Child, Bag Lady by Erykah Badu, and Ready for Love, India Irie.
Come on, Neo Soul Movement. You know, these 3 songs are really important because we were having this conversation the other day about mainstream radio and how songs like those were what were in the airwaves that were like, because we were getting there. We talk about programming. There was an era where music was actually, Black music was promoting healing and addressing your traumas and being vulnerable, whether you were a man or a woman. Like that, those were the songs that we were singing subconsciously. And then somehow it took a complete turn.
It ain't a somehow. It was pretty obvious.
It took a complete turn of now I don't need this and I don't want this and I don't like men and I don't like women, and that clear shift. So
yeah, it was the snap music era right after that, like literally.
Yeah, you got to shake your Laffy Taffy there. I hate that I said that. Shake your Laffy Taffy. But those 3 songs. So yeah, I think the beautiful thing about those 3 songs is that they're all vulnerable songs that are about acknowledging whatever trauma or something that you might have experienced in the past and now wanting to experience something better when it comes to love. That's hard. Bag Lady, man, so many gems. I didn't really understand that song when I was younger. I thought it was about literal bags, and I just like that Erykah Badu had on all the cool colors. I didn't even get the chakra reference or anything. I didn't understand it as a kid, but a very powerful song to say, you gonna miss your bus, not literally, but just your chance to move forward because you're being weighed down by all these things that no longer serve you. Like, that's such a creative ass song, and it was a bop. I'm just gonna say that and kind of keep it right there so I can think about if I want it to be my sign or my collab.
Gotcha.
Do you know what yours are?
I'm gonna go Teach Me to sign.
Why?
Because understanding everything we just talked about how men have been oppressed and that we've been taught that it's not manly to be vulnerable and open, and saying that, hey, I don't know everything, like teach me how to love. I'm open to surrendering and to figuring this out and to do the work that it takes to be in a loving relationship. And yeah, we're just kind of taught to shy away from those types of things, or all the programming that we already talked about. So yeah.
So you're signing Teach Me.
Yep.
What are you collabing with?
I'm gonna go Bag Lady again. Another solution. And I love solutions. So getting rid of those bags and all the things that we're carrying from other relationships and things that don't apply to this person. And again, because we're all mirrors, and when you look at whoever it is, you're gonna see that ugly shit from the past in that mirror every time, because you're looking at yourself. Until you get rid of it, it's gonna stay there. So yeah, shout out to Erykah for that one, and then Ready for Love, I'll go third, just because she was already ready. So
yeah, so she was already ready to go.
But a beautiful song nonetheless. I remember I used to love those chords, like when that first came out.
I sang Ready for Love in my talent show in school.
Yeah, I know.
I was younger. I told you
that's how well we know each other.
Oh, you already know all the little things. But yeah, she said she was ready for love, the joy and the pain. Which even though she's ready and healed, she acknowledges that love is not supposed to be this easy, quick fix to all things. So even acknowledging that, I think, should get an honorable mention, even if it was the third pick for this particular thing. They're all beautiful songs. I'm just gonna roll with yours. I think all of them could easily be interchangeable, but there's something about a man being that vulnerable in a song that was a radio, a single, is crazy to me.
Yeah, and him saying that, he was told the true definition of a man was to never cry and work till you die to provide. And
this is kind of like conversations too. This is like 2 segments in one right now. I'm really loving it.
So we'll put conversations up there.
But no, keep breaking it down. You said,
but yeah, just that first line of the song, just you just working and suppressing your emotions and not dealing with the things of this world, and if you stuck just working, you're not building a vision. You're just carrying out somebody else's. So you can't have vision when you're not starting the legacy of providing a family business and something that we can call our own. That's the only way we can be truly free.
Oof. Wow. And I think that's also to your point of why we need a holistic roadmap to achieve not just partnership, but success in all those things, mind, body, and soul, because we don't even, in this rat race that we're existing in America specifically, we don't have time to even sit down and understand what the goal is, how to make a plan. We're just working for the next check, and we just don't have the time and energy, which is why we need to create time to have more conversations like these, even if they only happen when you get a chance to listen to this podcast. Like, take these conversations outside of here and really have these conversations with your partner or with your friends,
your children,
and really the best thing we can do, the greatest starting point is just kind of changing and shifting the narrative with this new generation. Even if we don't have all the answers, like even with us going plant-based, we were in our 20s, our son was 8. So he now has a head start that we didn't. And then hopefully, he'll make that decision when he has children to start off, and it'll just keep cycling down to be able to like start this thing fresh with a new perspective and with better intentions.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Okay, so let's get into our gem of the week. This is the segment where we highlight independent creators of all types, whether it's music or health, wellness, financial literacy, anyone who is doing something outside of the major system and being able to cut through with a positive message, narrative, or piece of art. And this week we have selected our friends, Koya Webb and Darn Granger. They are incredible. They are healers. They're recently married. They just got married, and we were newlyweds. We were their bride angels and groom angels in their wedding. It was so beautiful. And we got to sing at their wedding as well. But really just want to highlight them because they have been building lifestyle design, so many incredible things that they're working on for this year, but definitely tap in. They just did a residency at Four Seasons where they're healing people through sound therapy.
Yeah, down in Costa Rica.
In Costa Rica. And just, they're doing what they have to do to help not only be a blueprint for what's possible in Black love and partnership, but to what you're speaking to of being in business with the person that you are in a relationship with and creating a blueprint for what's possible and just doing beautiful work. Yeah. And just being great friends. So we love you guys, and y'all are our gym. Did you want to add anything?
Nah, you hit the nail on the head. Shout out to Koya and Darn.
Our other plant-based shouters. They plant-based shouters too. Love to see it. All right, well, let's get into the final segment. It is Let There Be Manifestation. And this is the part of the show where we just manifest anything, just discussing anything that we want to bring into fruition. And I don't know if in the spirit of this theme of partnership, if there's anything you want to manifest that's specifically around partnership.
Yeah, just, healing and actually, building this next generation of people who want to do the work of healing themselves so they can be you know, a healthy asset to a relationship, and then of course parenting, and then starting the foundations of a business. And yeah, I think that's what we have to do. Nation building. So I'm manifesting nation building, starting with the individual and the families.
Mm-hmm. All right, Ashe. We are manifesting nation building, and we are going to do that with Let There Be Art. Y'all heard it here. Because a lot of these manifestations that we've been doing in the past, like from our unreleased episodes, and we've been going back because there will be some that are coming this year. So we have really, really great interviews that we've done prior that we want to get out to you, because a lot of the content is evergreen and still very valid. But when we've done this segment in the past, we've seen that over the last couple years, or even year, or even less, that a lot of these manifestations have come to fruition, or a lot of these intentions have come out to be a manifestation for those people. So there's power in the tongue. Words have power. We know it. So
Thoughts have power too.
thoughts have power, but words gets it out there to really plant the seed beyond you, and it creates accountability. So now we holding ourselves accountable to really build something bigger, to build this community that we're striving to do. So we're doing it right now with this podcast. And like we said, we got this land. So stay tuned. There's going to be many, many things that we're going to be disclosing this year surrounding actual physical community that we want to build, that we're going to build. Yes.
And again, make sure you tap into our email list down in the description, and definitely tap into our courses, ebooks, and other offerings that we have coming very, very soon. So let's heal together. Let's grow together, family. And we'll catch y'all next time on the Let There Be Art podcast. Peace.